It is opening day at Churchill Downs. That means we're just 1 week away from Kentucky Derby 144, presented by Woodford Reserve. This is the Kentucky Derby Work Show, presented by TwinSpires.com. Let's take a look at today's headlines. And lots of workers yesterday and today. All four of Todd Pletcher's trained horses went to the track yesterday, Friday. Magna Moon, Audible, Vino Rosso, Endo Belindi. We'll have more on that. Justify out in Southern California, cruised 7 furlongs in 125 and 1/5, his final major preparation for the Kentucky Derby. He will be here early next week. And Good Magic headlines the Saturday work tab. My Boy Jack, Flame Away, and a host of others. Monomoy go for the Oaks, and we'll bring you that live here on the Kentucky Derby Work Show. We are pleased to bring in our featured guest for today. It is trainer Keith Desormeaux with My Boy Jack. And Keith, no stranger to the Kentucky Derby, running second a couple of years ago with Exaggerator, who went on to win the Preakness Stakes. And Keith, it's great to have you here. I know you love this environment.
Yeah. Do you mean here in here with you or the racetrack?
Well, the racetrack first, in here with me second, because you've got My Boy Jack working today. So you're in here with us.
Yeah, I prefer to be out there.
We'll get you out there soon. But
all right, I know how it works.
Yeah, definitely want to talk about My Boy Jack. And he actually started his career on the turf, ran in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, now shows up in the Kentucky Derby on dirt. Talk about his progression as a 2-year-old and what made you try the Derby Trail after starting on turf.
Well, you know, now that you say that, I'm sure more than a few people are realizing that we only ran 3 lengths behind Mendelssohn in the juvenile turf, and we were wide, extremely wide, both turns. It made the Louisiana Derby trip look like a good trip if you look back on the Breeders' Cup turf. But anyway, he started off on the grass mainly because we wanted distance, not because we necessarily wanted to run on the turf. And he performed so well that we continued that theme through the Breeders' Cup. But of course, everyone, especially us horsemen, want to get here to the Derby. Therefore, we had to make that change to the dirt, and he's excelled. So we're excited to be here.
Yeah,
well, Keith, that was the Southwest Stakes where he was explosive in the slop, and now we're seeing him in the Louisiana Derby. This big, wide, sweeping move with Brother Kent in the saddle, and right now it looks like he's going to storm home and win the race.
Yeah, I've told people before. I don't think it was how wide he went that was the problem. It was the speed in which he got there. He went from the 3/8 pole to the quarter pole in probably 10-3, and that took the steam out of his finish. If we would have made a more gradual move, even though it was wide, I think he would have won that race. And, you know, as horsemen, we all make excuses for getting beat, and that was my excuse then. And I'm sure glad he vilified himself here in the Lexington.
Yeah, and he did. And I was curious if you had any second thoughts about running in the Lexington, because as it turns out, you didn't need the points. He won this race to get 20 of them and get in the Kentucky Derby, 12 points to the winner. But it turns out you didn't need him. Any second thoughts about running him, or is this what he needed to be ready on May 5th?
I'll be totally honest with you. I would not have run in the Lexington if I knew I was getting in. But I'm sure not going to sit here Derby week hoping to make the field. That just seems like the worst way to spend this week. So, you know, I adjusted his training a little bit and used the Lexington Stakes as a building block instead of an ending point to what we're trying to accomplish. I lightened up his training between the Louisiana Derby and that race, hoping to use the Lexington as I repeat myself, a building block for the Derby. So I don't think it's of any doubt that he'll be the fittest horse in the race. I guess the concern is he strong enough? Because he does have more starts than anyone else in the race. I attribute that to his soundness and his conformation, and maybe the things we do between races, we're not as hard on him. And it's looking like it's going to work out because his weight is back. He's very energetic, sound as always, and our fitness is one thing that won't be in question.
Well, Mendelssohn cost $3 million. Good Magic cost over $1 million. So did Instilled Regard. And that's just to name a few. My Boy Jack cost $20,000 at Keeneland September as a yearling. Exaggerator wasn't a big ticket item either. Neither was Texas Red. Without giving away your secrets, how do you get a $20,000 yearling into the Kentucky Derby?
Well, it's a thank you for recognizing that, and I'll tell you, it's a combination of things. First of all, when I went to the sale as a younger man, a younger horseman, it didn't matter the amount that I was sent to spend. I thought I could come out of there with as good a horse as anyone else. You see it every day. I mean, I'm not the only one who's bought inexpensive horses and made it to the top class. So how do they do it? In other words, it's possible. So give Keith Desormeaux a few dollars, and I can make that possibility reality. I've just always had that way of thinking. Of course, it's not just a way of thought that gets you places. You have to apply yourself to pedigree and confirmation, and constantly looking at horses, good horses, so that you'll know how to match that characteristic with a young horse at the sale. It's a great thing, these horse races, or horses racing, the sport in general. I've been looking at horses with passion since I was a kid. I'm 51 years old now, and I'm still not tired of it. It's just it's something that's ingrained in me. I enjoy it, and I've learned to pick the good ones out. That's all. That's as simple as it is.
Well, you don't look a day over 48, so congratulations on that. Keith, you mentioned the fitness. He's had a lot of races, a lot of experience. On Tuesday morning, we're going to have the Kentucky Derby draw. Any thoughts on how he's, with him coming into the race the way he is? Does that make the draw less important because he's more tractable, or do you have a post position in mind when they draw your number?
With his style, with Exaggerator style, even with Texas Red and the other ones, it doesn't matter. With Kent's style, who cares what post position, because the speed is going. He's going to judge the pace properly from there. He may be 5 lengths off. He may be 15 lengths off. What you're getting at is that I don't think it's important, because the only bad thing about being wide or in outside holes that you're going to be wide going into the first turn, but that doesn't affect us because we'll be off the pace.
Right.
You mentioned your brother Kent, who happens to be 48 years old, Ed. Talk about your relationship. 3-time Kentucky Derby winner. Is it difficult to separate family and business? I mean, you guys got a great relationship. You're not afraid to give him a dig every once in a while when you feel it necessary.
Yeah, the question that you're asking, or what you just said, is it hard for us to separate business? And it's not, because we have totally two different personalities. Our job descriptions are so uniquely different that we don't cross paths that often. We don't cross. He does what he does, which is a 2-minute explosive thinking and quick decisions. Mine's done is 2 years. My process takes 2 years. So we don't argue about what should be done, and it's a very easygoing relationship.
You mentioned when you came here, Cajun on the set. When you're in Louisville, do you have a go-to for crawfish, or do you?
That's against the law, man. You don't eat crawfish, especially boiled crawfish, anywhere but South Louisiana. It's just not right.
You got your other places.
But they've turned that into a real ease of process now. These rigs come in all the way from Louisiana, and I hear they're just as good as being at home. But I'm joking about that. A Cajun party is a good party wherever you are.
I like that.
So, Keith, you're going to be one of the few people in and around Louisville, here for the Derby, visiting as a fan, a horseman, a jockey, an owner, who would probably love to see it rain and for the sloppy track to be, potentially in your favor. Are you going to do a rain dance Friday night, Saturday morning, and try to get the juju going? Because based on that video I saw in the Southwest, My Boy Jack moves way up on my list if the track is sloppy.
I don't know if I'll be doing the rain dance. That makes it miserable. I want to be out here in the sun and showing off my new suit. And And he showed in the Southwest that he's just as good on a dry track. I guess if it does rain, the odds will drop in my favor. But I could care less. Bring on the sunshine.
The forecast looks good right now, but last year around this time I tweeted that the forecast looked beautiful, and we all remember what happened.
It wasn't too good. It is improving, though. We've had some negative reports for next week, but this morning, Saturday's forecast looked good. And I agree with you, Keith. Usually slop, then people start making excuses for other horses. You went on a fast track, you're the winner.
You went on of course.
Yeah, there's no. It takes away an excuse for the others.
But that's one of the great things about handicapping and this game in general. Everybody has an opinion, and it's fun to hash it out.
All right.
We're going to see him work, so we're going to let you go. But what are you looking for from the work today as you send him out for his final important move before the Derby?
Yeah, just as I touched on before, fitness is not an issue. So I'm not trying to gain fitness with this work. I just want him to feel the track. I want him to stretch out his body, his muscles, his joints, air him up a little bit. We again, in these couple of weeks since the Lexington, we've been pampering him, keeping him quiet, light jogs and work. So he needs to do something. We're going to let him stretch out, and then we start that pampering process again up until next Saturday.
Well, we thank you for your time. Looking forward to seeing my boy Jack on the track and watching him stretch his legs this morning. And it's always great to have you here, Keith. Thanks for joining us, and best of luck in the Kentucky Derby.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith.
Thanks, Keith Desormeaux, everybody. We're going to welcome people from around the world via social media. Again, if you have a question, please put it in the queue. We'll get to as many of them as possible during the course of the next 45 minutes or so. We're going to welcome Kathy from sunny Seminole, Florida, Sylvia from Spain, Joe from Chester, New Hampshire. Lots of people joining us on social media. We want you to ask questions. We'll get to a few of those and get closer to live training on the Kentucky Derby Work Show, brought to you by TwinSpires.com. We'll be back right after this.
Feel the excitement with TwinSpires.com, the official betting partner of the Kentucky Derby and Breeders' Cup. With TwinSpires.com, place legal wagers and watch live horse racing wherever you are on any device. Sign up, play, and win today. New players use promo code WIN100 on sign up to start your $100 bonus. With TwinSpires.com, you can bet the Kentucky Derby. Get the TwinSpires.com app to receive special offers and the most up-to-date information. Terms and conditions apply. Void where prohibited. Please wager responsibly.
Where the sun shines bright on my old Kentucky home. It's summer, the people are gay. The corn tops ripe and the fields are all in bloom, and the bird music all the day.
Today, we share the best of Kentucky. It's our Woodford way.
We are back on the Kentucky Derby Work Show, brought to you by TwinSpires.com. It's opening day at Churchill Downs. We're just 7 days away from Kentucky Derby 144, presented by Woodford Reserve. Joe Christofek and Ed Rosa joining you from the backstretch here at Churchill Downs. It's a very pleasant morning. We've got a couple of other members of our team that we're going to get to in a second, and we're going to start with a social media question to throw to James Scully and Brandon Stauble. And this is a question from Maggie in New York City, and she asks, how do you rank the final 100-point prep races? I believe there's 7 of those in total, in terms of strength of field, speed, pace, etc. How do you rank them? A strength of field question. Perfect timing to send it up to James Scully and Brandon Stauble, high atop Churchill Downs near the finish line. Guys?
Good morning, fellas. And yes, Maggie, there were 7 100-point to the winner major final preps for the Kentucky Derby. And those races were a testament to the overall quality of this year's field. 5 of those races were won by 3 lengths or more: Justify, Mendelssohn, Audible, Vino Rosso, and and I'm forgetting the other one, Audible. Anyway, I thought the Santa Anita Derby was the strongest. I like Justify. He's the favorite. Boldoro second. I would go Florida Derby second. Brandon, your take?
Yeah, Santa Anita Derby, just a couple of runners in there that really are going to make some noise in here. Florida Derby, very strong as well. So we'll see some of those horses work today. And just an exciting day to be out here, James. And back to you, Joe.
Well, thanks, Brandon and James. And yes, the Kentucky Derby and Oaks workout period, 7:30 to 7:45 this morning. We mentioned Good Magic, the highlighted worker, winner of the Bluegrass Stakes and one of the likely favorites for Kentucky Derby 144. So, Ed, like when it comes to that question about the strongest preps, I think James made the best point. I think the winners of those preps, all of them, were very impressive. So to pick the strongest one is tough. I'm not a Bolt Doro fan, but I am a Justify fan. And if I had to pick the overall strongest prep with instilled regard in there, I'd probably go Santa Anita Derby too, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, from an academic standpoint, if you look at the Brisnet ratings, it's unquestionably, to me, the Santa Anita Derby. And track announcer Travis Stone has made a similar point using other speed ratings as well. The figure Bolt Doro got for running second to Justify would have won most of the other preps. So from that standpoint, it's hard to ignore that Santa Anita Derby wasn't the strongest. But I agree with you. You look at the winners across, I would say this is the deepest point season we've had to date. And again, people are comparing this group to 2007, 1997. It's really talented.
Yeah, and we had several workers yesterday. We're going to have several more today that were highlighted by the Todd Pletcher Quartet. During the workout period, we got to see Audible, we got to see Magnum Moon, we got to see Vino Rosso. But a little bit later on in the morning at 9 o'clock, Louisiana Derby winner Noble Indy went to the track. I'm going to throw it up to James and Brandon now and have them rattle through these Pletcher workouts. The 3 Pletchers and also Lone Sailor who worked yesterday. Guys, take it away.
All right, yes, Noble Indy, I think he's a little bit of an X factor, Brandon. He's going to show speed with blinkers. What did you think of this move?
Yeah, I like the way that he started out, getting this horse to settle behind another horse. You know, we talked about him being a speed horse, so it is nice to see that he can rate. He's not just the type that was going to run off or do anything like that. And you can see Giroux is up here on the outside. You've got the ears up. Just a very comfortable move here, and I like the fact that, too, this horse got a little better past the wire, and you'll see it here in just a minute. Once he hits the wire, Giroux's going to just ask him to gallop out a little bit, and I kind of liked what I saw behind, especially. You've got a little bit of power back there, so we'll take a look right here. The ears are still up, gives him a little nudge here, and good changeover, and then just galloped out really strong, in my opinion. I just like the fact that you've got a speed horse that came out of a race that was very pace-oriented early on, and he showed the ability to relax here.
All right, and we'll head right now to Magnum Moon, Brandon. He had his final workout. We saw Noble Indy on the outside of his workmate here. Magnum Moon's on the inside. He drifted out in the stretch of the Arkansas Derby. Can you talk about his move and being on the inside?
Yeah, you made a great point yesterday, James, of the fact that maybe the reasoning that he was on the inside was to teach him to not do that, or if there's an issue, they're trying to just keep him covered up, but more of maybe a learning experience here. Very quick drill. Looking down back at the watch at the finish line, I was kind of surprised to see 47-2 because he was doing it so easily. You can see that he is wanting to almost just look out just a little bit here, and they're keeping him covered up nice and easy. He's got a good stride to the wire. The ears are up. He's easily traveling very well over the surface in here, just about right there. Tries to maybe just get out just a little bit, but they've got him covered up, and very strong gallop out in here. You can see out in 5 furlongs in a minute and 2, and then 6 furlongs in 1:13 and 4.
Yeah, and we expect Magnum Moon to be the third choice in the wagering on May 5th on Saturday. We're going to turn now to Vino Rosso, the Wood Memorial winner. He breezed on the outside of his workmate, similar to Noble Indy. Your take on his work, Brandon?
Yeah, another quick move here, and you know, Todd's one of those guys. He's not afraid to let him roll. You'll see other people the work before the race. They'll want to do something very easy. You know, if the horse is feeling good, and we heard it from Keith Desormeaux earlier, it sounds like my boy Jack's they're gonna let him roll today too. So don't be concerned about a quick time. You know, 1 week prior to the race, but ranged up on the mate very easily here, and another one too. I mean, you can't really knock any of Todd's horses yesterday. They all looked well. You can see the ears are up here. A good stride to the wire, and then Johnny's going to ask for a little bit of gallop out in here. You can see he hits the wire in 47 and 1. We're going to go out 6 furlongs in 1:13 and 2. Slightly bested the wire, but the mate was under a decent little hold there. So, you know, the fact that the ears are still up on gallop out, and we like the nudging from Johnny just to kind of remind, you know, hey, take off a little bit here for me. Let's see you put a little bit more bottom into that stamina.
Yeah, and Vino had the fastest of the 3 Todd Pletcher workers at a half mile. We're going to turn now to Lone Sailor, Brandon. He's been a little bit of a buzz horse. Going to be a long shot, but real fast 5 furlong work first here, and then he went a half mile yesterday early. Your take?
Yeah, very athletic moving horse, very nimble, and he's a very good workhorse in general. Remember last year as a 2-year-old before the Breeders' Futurity, I loved him going into that race. He worked so strong. So he's one of those horses. He's always going to look good in the mornings, and it's no exception in here. You can see he's hitting a quarter pole here in 23-4, and just a really smooth move down to the lane. You can see he's reaching out well. The ears are pricked. He's liking what he's doing out there, and he's one I think you have to look at as a horse that's going to be there maybe to key your tries, your supers, and if he gets lucky, maybe even get into the top 2.
Wow. All right, well, back to you. Oh, one more thing about Lone Sailor. Is this the move you like to see after a real fast move?
Yeah, I think it's all about the horse and the fact that we know he's a good workhorse. I'd rather see this type of move, and it's all about the way they're moving. It's not so much the time. It's about how they're moving out there. He seems to be moving well, and that's what I want to see.
All right, good stuff. Back to you, Joe.
All right, guys, thank you. So, Quip, the defection from the Derby several days ago. Florent Giroux lost his mount. It made a lot of sense that he would potentially be on Noble Indy. He was aboard for the work. Pretty much looks like he's going to be the jockey 1 week from today.
Yeah, and he's coming in hot, as the kids say, having won the Keeneland riding title, doing very well, of course, was the regular pilot on Horse of the Year Gun Runner, so has raced in the big stage, and I think it's a good fit.
It's really cool, and you see all these horses, and they come in here with all this anticipation, and they all seem to be training well.
Yeah, no, it doesn't seem like a lot of excuses, and we have, as we said, all the 100-point winners were great. Then Brandon Staubel throws in there. He could see Lone Sailor in the top 2, so we're gonna, he's looking at 30-1 horses in the exact, maybe very talented group.
I'm going to throw the first social media question to Brandon because it's a very good one. We talk terminology a lot on the show, but we also want to be educational. This is a perfect opportunity. Brandon, David on Twitter asks, when they post a workout time for a horse, why do they post an out at the end of the time? Explain what the out means, please.
A gallop out?
Yeah, out. Yeah, exactly. Gallop
Sure.
out.
Yeah, the official times at the track, it's one of those things where they're just there for informational purposes. They'll give you a ranking. We'll say you'll see like a 9/100, ninth best of 100 works on the day. But, it would be nice to be able to get the gallop out time. But if you look at the past performances, there's so much information in there already. You have to kind of keep it short and sweet. That's kind of like what we like to do out here. We like to give you those type of informational clues. But if we could do that, we would love to.
All right, thanks, Brandon. I'm going to toss this one over to Ed on the set because I know he likes one of them, and we just had the trainer of another on set here. The question is about who the best closer is in this year's Derby. Who are the best closers? It comes from Michael on Facebook. My Boy Jack, an obvious one, but I know there's a closer that you're very, very interested in.
Yeah, I do like Hofburg best in part because he chased home who I probably am going to pick to win the race, and that's Audible, and Hofburg has some upside. To me, he's run a plus 100 Brisnet speed rating. My Boy Jack's been a touch slower. People love to see that closing move. They think, they're running. They're going to eventually get there. You still got to be fast. Hofburg already has been with some upside since he's so lightly raced. So I do like Hofburg best. But based on what we see today with My Boy Jack, what Brandon said about Lone Sailor, those are two as well that if they're underneath Audible, I'll be happy.
All right, one more social media question because we are getting closer to the designated Derby and Oaks training time. I'm going to throw this one to James, and it has to do with the workouts that we're going to see. And this is Sarah on Facebook. She's asking about the workouts today and what horses are going to do for the next week. There's still a week before the Derby. A lot of the most important final works these couple days, yesterday and today. What do they do next, James?
Well, after they breeze today, they're going to have a day off, a day where they'll take it easy and basically just walk around the barn, and then they'll get back to the track probably 2 days later, maybe do a light jog or light gallop and jog around the track, and then gallop into the race. Joe?
Well, thanks. And yes, as you can see, the tractor manicuring the racetrack for the designated Oaks and Derby training time, 7:30 to 7:45. Kentucky Derby right around the corner. And if you're interested in joining us here on track for Derby Week, visit KentuckyDerbyWeek.com for event and ticket information. KentuckyDerbyWeek.com is the only official and guaranteed place to buy and sell Kentucky Derby Week tickets. Again, KentuckyDerbyWeek.com. We'll be back with live training here on the Kentucky Derby Work Show presented by TwinSpires.com right after this.
Feel the excitement with TwinSpires.com, the official betting partner of the Kentucky Derby and Breeders' Cup. With TwinSpires.com, place legal wagers and watch live horse racing wherever you are on any device. Sign up, play, and win today. New players use promo code WIN100 on sign up to start your $100 bonus. With TwinSpires.com, you can bet the Kentucky Derby. Get the TwinSpires.com app to receive special offers and the most up-to-date information. Terms and conditions apply. Void where prohibited. Please wager responsibly.
Where the sun shines bright on my old Kentucky home. It's summer, the people are gay. The corn tops ripe and the fields are all in bloom, and the bird music all the day.
Today, we share the best of Kentucky. It's our Woodford way.
We are back on the Kentucky Derby Work Show presented by TwinSpires.com. It's opening day at Churchill. We're just 1 week away from the run for the Roses. Joe Christopher and Ed DeRosa on set here on the backstretch at Churchill Downs, and several important Kentucky Derby workers today, headlined by Bluegrass winner Good Magic. He was the winner of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, 2-year-old champion. We also have My Boy Jack, Flame Away, Free Drop Billy, and Promises Fulfilled. Bravazzo worked a little bit earlier this morning, but lots of activity.
Absolutely, yeah. Yesterday was the Apollo horses, Magnum Moon and Justify, unraced at 2. Today we have the 2-year-old champion, My Boy Jack, the most raced horse in the field. So a little juxtaposition there, but really looking forward to seeing champion Good Magic. Of all the horses coming out of the 100-point races, he seems to be the one on the rise in terms of how people have said he's training coming out of that race.
Well, I believe Bravazzo worked at 5:15 this morning. I was just getting in my car to come here. But James and Brandon, a little bit more dedicated. They were both here. I know Brandon got a chance to look at the workout for Bravazzo. So, Brandon, let's start with that. Your thoughts on Bravazzo's workout this morning. He trained early.
Yeah, I was walking up into the stands, and all of a sudden I see the towel out there. I'm like, whoa, okay, we better hustle up here. So, yeah, he worked from the 5-base pole, worked with a horse named Burko, according to track officials here, and, started off the hip and then kind of pulled one of the moves like we saw from Hofberg, went on the inside of the mate, and just a little bit of encouragement to finish up to the wire in there. Nothing flashy, decent work, not going to really put me on him for the Derby, Joe.
Well, thanks, Brandon. We mentioned Good Magic as the highlighted worker as the horses are going to start inching their way towards the track. And I want to send this to James. Good Magic is a horse that has impressed me in his races. He impressed me with his workout at Keeneland last weekend. He's impressed me in the flesh. He continues to climb up my ladder, and I'm liking him more and more every day, James.
Yeah, and we've talked about him before, Joe. Good Magic made his third start of the year last year in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, was real impressive winning that race, and this will be his third start of the year in the Kentucky Derby. He's coming off a confidence-building win in the Bluegrass, and his move last week looked good, Brandon, and he's made a really favorable impression over the track, so really the highlight of today's work session. Joe.
All right, let's take a look at the Oaks horses that are scheduled to work for today, and one of those is the likely favorite or second choice. It could be Midnight Bisou from California, or it could be Monomoy Girl. We saw her work here at Churchill Downs last weekend. She is scheduled to go to the track today for trainer Brad Cox. He also has Sassy Sienna. Blame scheduled to work for Joel Maher, who was our guest on the show a couple days ago. Kelly's Humor as well, and I'm hearing Eskimo Kisses. This is a late one. Just got word in my ear a couple of minutes ago. Eskimo Kisses, there's a potential that she could be out there as well, Ed.
Yeah, a flurry of activity for the Oaks. Monomoy Girl got the best of Eskimo Kisses in that short stretch. Ashland Stakes, I know James thinks Eskimo Kiss is capable of turning the tables, so big pieces of the Oaks puzzle certainly over the next couple days.
Now, Monomoy Girl looked good, I thought, in her work. For the most part, she was a little bit headstrong, but she's looked good on the track, and that's kind of just who she is. I want to get Brandon's thoughts on Monomoy Girl, because I know, Brandon, you were a little bit discouraged potentially by the way she went, and you want her to settle a lot better today, I'm guessing.
Yeah, you listened to Brad last week, and he did mention that's her, and I get that. But at the same time, we're stretching out in distance like we talked about last week, and you just want to see her relax, maybe just a tad more, not a whole lot, but obviously you want her to use her weapon, which is her speed. But I would like to see her settle a little bit more and able to relax, especially if she doesn't get the lead in the Oaks and has to sit off. I mean, you want to be able to see that she's not going to be fighting the rider the whole time while stretching out to the 1 1/8 miles, guys.
There she is, Monomoy Girl. These horses about to stretch their legs. Ed, Monomoy Girl, Midnight Bisou. Monomoy Girl has been based in the Midwest. She's kind of a speed horse. We've seen her win from off the pace when she broke poorly in the Rachel Alexandra. Midnight Bisou is a come-from-behind individual. They're going to vie for favoritism. Who do you think is going to be favored, and who do you think is the horse that you're more confident in running a big race next Friday?
I think Midnight Bisou will actually end up being the favorite. It will be close, but I think Mike Smith is going to take money that Brad Cox or Florent Giroux don't. And I also think with the run style, those just handicapping the race, more likely to gravitate toward a closer than a speed horse, given some pace in this race. So they'll undoubtedly be the top two choices, but I do think Midnight Bisou will take more money.
James, let's talk about the pace of the Oaks, because you've got the potential for Amy's Challenge. She is a big horse speed-wise who could go in that race, or she could go in the 8 bells. They're still undecided. Then you've got Classy Actor, worked really fast yesterday. She's got speed. Monomoy Girl, if she does go to the front, which we're thinking she will, likely to have some company.
Yeah, and Blamed as well. We're going to see her this morning. She has a lot of speed. I'm expecting a hot pace. And in last year's Oaks, Joe, the top 3 finishers all rallied off a pace. It was contested throughout. It was too taxing, and there's a definite possibility that it will set up for a late runner this year.
We talked about Good Magic being one of the highlight Kentucky Derby winners here today. There he is, looking good in the flesh once again. Trainer Chad Brown 0 for 4 in the Derby. He's won 10 Breeders' Cup races, 8 of those on turf, but he did win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile with Good Magic. And Ed, when we think Chad Brown, we kind of think turf. He's trying to change that so-called reputation. I just think he's a really, really good trainer.
Oh, absolutely. And his reputation precedes him in that he learned from Bobby Frankel, who sort of had a turf reputation as well, and then came on in the early 21st century with horses like Empire Maker. Big thing with Chad Brown is he is loaded this weekend. He has Rushing Fall, he has Beach Patrol in the Old Forester, Good Magic, of course, in the marquee event. He's poised for a big, big weekend after a big, big Keeneland. Watching Chad Brown this week at Churchill, if he's hot, it'll be, this horse might take a lot more money than we expect just because the Chad Brown factor.
One more quick note from James on Good Magic. James, the pedigree Curlin has produced a classic placed horse from each of his first 5 crops. He's got Good Magic, Vino Rosso, Solomini. There's some stamina as well on the dam side. I think he's one of these horses in the race that could like a 1.25 miles.
Yeah, I agree, Joe. And Good Magic was actually Kerwin's first Breeders' Cup race winner. I think it's only a matter of time before he breaks through, like in the Kentucky Derby. And definitely Good Magic gives him a fantastic chance this year, I think, to get it done.
Dale Romans has 2 horses in the Kentucky Derby. He's got the speed covered with Promises Fulfilled and a deep closer in Free Drop Billy. And Ed, Promises Fulfilled is important to the Kentucky Derby because most likely he's the horse that we know is going to go to the front.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at Good Magic, how he won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. I'm sure his connections won't mind seeing Promises Fulfilled go to the front, and maybe some of the other favorites having to chase him, because when Bolt D'Oro tried to engage early on after that rough start in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, set up beautifully for Good Magic. So Promises Fulfilled, whether or not you totally dismiss him as a win candidate, just has to factor in how you handicap the race.
We're going to see some works fast and furious here in just a moment or two, but we do have Flame Away on the track. He's scheduled to work today. James, I know this is a horse that you like, in as much for his ability as for his heart.
Yeah, real hard trying horse, Joe. He lays it down every single time, and the thing about him that's favorable is that he's got a good tactical speed. He always puts himself in position, turning for home, fights to the wire. More likely to challenge for a minor award, second, third, or fourth. But he's a long shot to consider for your exotic wagers like tries and supers.
And Good Magic is starting to book. You see him picking up some steam here, gearing up for his workout. So we're going to throw it back to James and Brandon up top. They might keep it for a while here if we have some rapid fire workouts. But guys, Good Magic about ready to break off for his work in a gallop right now.
Yeah, he's going to break off here. Just to kind of give you the rundown of what we got. We've got Good Magic. Looks like he's going to go first. We've got Monomoy Girl right behind, and then Promises Fulfilled. So like you said, we're going to see some action here. Chad worked the team 5 furlongs earlier. Looks like he's going to do the same with Good Magic. And off here. So looking for Good Magic to maybe relax a little bit early. And actually he's under a strong hold right now. And so we will watch him hit the quarter pole there. I've got him in 12 and 3, so just an easy opening 8th there. Monomoy Girl and Promises Fulfilled to follow here.
One thing you've talked about, Brandon, watching previous works is the horses like head, they're the way their ears and everything are. Just was like, I knew you were impressed last time by Good Magic and the way he held himself. What do you think about right now?
Yeah, especially going a mile and a quarter, you want to see a horse that has a good mind in here and the ability to pick off horses and show that he's got some different gears. 37 here at the quarter pole, and you can see him coming down the lane, just a really good stride. Ears are up, he's listening. Let's take a look at the gallop out here. We know this barn, they typically like to do a lot of their work past the wire. So you can see Good Magic finishing up here. Ears are just flopping, very relaxed. Got him in 101 to the wire, just so a very solid 5/8 move. And rider just going to nudge on him just a little bit and say, pick it up here for me. Let's finish this off. And we're going to gallop out on my watch in 113 and 4. Very solid move. Nothing flashy, but a very solid move for Good Magic. Seems to be moving well. You can see him kind of throw the ears up. One thing I like to see, too, is on the gallop out, and then when they get to the backside, if they throw those ears up, that tells me they're wanting more.
Wow. So now we've got Brandon. We're still following good Promises Filled up there coming into this work. Dale Roman's horse, speed horse. I'll let you take it away, Brandon.
Yeah, we've got Promises Fulfilled, and actually Promises Fulfilled is behind Monomoy Girl right now. So kind of has a target up front. Though these works are interesting too. You know, there's a lot of traffic, not only now but during the track time, during the normal hours. And you see drills like this, so you see good horses where they have to sit behind another team working. So it's interesting to see those dynamics, and we'll see what Promises Fulfilled does here. You can see Monomoy Girl on the screen there as well. I've got Monomoy Girl in 25 to the quarter pole. Promises Fulfilled is probably going to show a little more speed here and maybe have to go wide around the team. That's another thing to think about, too, with these work when they have to angle out 3 wide, 4 wide. So Monomoy Girl here looking good to the wire. Promises Fulfilled, 49 on Monomoy Girl. I like what I saw there today, guys, a lot more relaxed, and Promises Fulfilled, a little bit of encouragement. Kind of the same thing, flipped to the wrong lead right near the wire. And 101 and 2 on Monomoy Girl, unofficially on my watch. And all 3 are going to gallop out here. Promises Fulfilled still chasing that team around the turn under encouragement.
They didn't plan this, right? This just worked out the way it worked out with him being behind those fillies.
Right, exactly. And you just, I mean, it's just how it goes. And it's one of those things where they get a target. So maybe it's a good thing. It's a good thing in case he doesn't break well and he doesn't end up on the lead. So we've got Free Drop Billy here. Around the turn, and he's a guy that always works well, and one of those guys that I like to see the reach on Free Drop Billy. He's just a really neat horse, and you got to love that big face that he's got.
Yeah, he's like you talked about Promises Fulfilled. Free Drop Billy's a late runner. He also had a nice work, we thought, last week, and he looks like he's reaching pretty good there, Brandon.
Yeah, nice reach to the wire. You can see the ears are up, and he's one of those horses that will tell you when he's wanting to do more. And really nice reach out here to the wire.
All right.
And what we want to see, so one thing about Dale Romans is he'll work his horses to the wire, but the actual workout itself doesn't end until they get past the wire. He's one of those guys like a Bob Baffert. They like to teach him to run past the wire in there. So from the finish line on the gallop out, I got an extra furlong in 12 and 1. And he's going to continue on with a nice gallop out in here.
All right.
24 and 3 there. And Flame Away looked like he finished heads up, James?
Yeah, heads up. He went with a workmate. Looked pretty good on the outside. Not being pushed too much there.
Guys, we've also got my boy Jack heading out. And then we're going to pick up a couple of workers here.
Looks like Sassy Sienna mid-stretch, Brandon.
Yeah, and she's been one that's always been a good workhorse too. And most of Brad's horses, they train well in the mornings, and you can see a decent reach there, very fit. That's one thing you don't have to worry about with that barn. They're going to be very fit in here. Looks like Eskimo Kisses as well, finishing up to the wire.
She's a late runner, so you want to see her really come home strongly, don't you, Brandon?
Exactly. And then one thing, too, on these gallop outs, like I talked about, you want to see those ears go up. They're telling you that they want more, that they understand that, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to keep going? Because if you want me to keep going, James, they'll be there.
All right. Yeah, I mean, that was some like rapid-fire action there, one right after another, Joe.
My boy Jack, is he gearing up for his work? Has he worked? What do we still got coming up here?
He's approaching the three-quarter pole with the lead pony, so we've got just maybe about 30, 45 seconds before he goes. We got a few others making an appearance out here, guys. Hoffberg, Looks well in the flesh, but yeah, we'll stick with My Boy Jack here. And you talked to Keith earlier, and it sounds like he's going to let him roll. They haven't really done much with him. They've kind of babied him, is what he said. So I wouldn't be shocked here to see a 47, or if he's going to go 5/8, see a 59 and change, something like that. So. Maybe that's going to be a good sign here. Looks like he's going to go 5/8, so we'll pick him up from the 5/8 pole. Kind of did something similar with Exaggerator a couple years ago, where I believe he worked a quick time before the Derby. And Keith, when listening to him talk earlier, he's just a very knowledgeable guy, and the fact that he only paid $20,000 for this horse says a lot about him.
Yeah, Exaggerator's a late runner, just like My Boy Jack. We're going to be rolling from the clouds. Down the lane, the connection's hope.
And it was interesting to hear him talk about, too, that they just chose the turf because of the distance, because, in my opinion, he always moved like he had a dirt quality to him. So we're going to pick him up here at the quarter pole. Going off pretty slow in here. I got him in 39-1 on my watch. So we're going to want to see him finish here. You can see those ears up. And we're going to want to see a little bit of finish here. He's going to shake him up a little bit. So we'll see what kind of final quarter we get here. I'd like to see something, in the 24 range, something like that would be nice. But the most important thing is the way he's moving, and he's striding out well to the wire. Got him in 103-2 on my watch with a final quarter of 24-1. So you can see the jock kind of just flagged the stick late there. When we say flag the stick, he'll just throw the stick by the horse's face, just telling him what we want there. And a nice gallop out in there, a very solid drill. But when you're talking about a closer, you just want to see that they're finishing well and they're moving well to the wire. So nice gallop out in there. You can see the ears kind of go up. And guys, that's what you want to see.
I had a question real quick about My Boy Jack, Brandon. He seems to have a really explosive eighth of a mile, as we see Hofburg here. Eighth of a mile run does My Boy Jack. The question is, when does Keith Desormeaux use it? Because he's been coming off the turn with that slingshot move, and it's been, pretty dangerous, and at times it almost seems like he's hanging a little bit late. So I think that the timing of the move is very important with him.
Yeah, like you talked about, Keith talked about earlier, is that he wasn't concerned about the wide trip. I thought that was really interesting in there, because that's what everybody's skiing on, is the wide trip. But if you look closely, he did make a 10-3 type move into the turn, and that's what he said, that we have to wait till we get to the turn and save that move for maybe around the 8th pole and explode home late.
Yeah, we just saw Hofburg come by as well. Looks like a little bit of a spirited gallop. I believe he's supposed to work tomorrow. Is that correct, Brandon?
Yeah, and, typical Bill Mott tomorrow, we're probably expecting just an easy half mile, maybe in company. But, Hofburg is a horse that is on everybody's radar in there. And you can see My Boy Jack. One thing you also want to take a look at, too, is how they come out of the work when they get to the backside. Are they jogging off well? Do they seem like they still have a lot of energy? You can see those ears are up. And My Boy Jack, if you liked him going in, there's nothing to turn you off from this work today.
Yeah, he and Hofburg had this similar run style, but you can see that My Boy Jack, he looked real Hofburg's like a pretty built, pretty physical specimen, and he's real a little high strung. I guess the breeding has something to do with that, with him being the son of leading sire Tappet.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I wanted to point out, too, about My Boy Jack, and Keith touched on this earlier, is stamina is not going to be an issue. And this horse has a ton of leg. If you've ever, if you get here to the track and you see this horse in person, a ton of leg on this horse, and the distance is not going to be a problem, James.
Let's take a look at Hofburg, guys. And I want Ed to comment on Hofburg again, because I know he really likes him. Ed, lightly raced horse, Hall of Fame trainer, a deep closing style, at least from what we saw in the Florida Derby. Progressive type, but this is a whole different ballgame. But I know you're contemplating putting him really high in your overall public selection. So tell us why.
Well, I thought the Florida Derby was a good race, and people say, well, look at what happened up front. Promise was fulfilled and strike power. Well, promise was fulfilled in this race, too. So for me, that's not necessarily a negative, because it could be a similar setup. Hofburg came late. He was no match for Audible. I thought Audible was clearly better. But in the Derby, you're going to get 2-3 times the price on Hofburg, and I think it's worth the gamble on an up-and-coming type. I am very eager to hear what we think of the work tomorrow from Brandon, Gary Young, etc., because 2 works back, he worked against Good Samaritan, one of the top older males in the country, and worked well with him. Last time it was with an unraced maiden, and people were concerned that he couldn't get by her. So tomorrow well, we'll see what we see. And Brandon knows Bill Mott as well as anyone in terms of training methods. Second all-time leading trainer here. He knows Churchill Downs. So just eager to see what the work tomorrow is, and I would say that will lead to my final decision about how high Hofberg ends up on my list.
From a long shot Derby horse to a long shot Oaks horse that you like in Blaine. We talked to Joel Marr on set a couple days ago, and this is a horse that has done nothing wrong. She just keeps winning and winning and winning around 2 turns. But we talked about the potential pace scenario, Ed, with Classy Act, maybe Amy's Challenge, Monomoy Girl, one of the favorites. Blamed is going to be up close too, but she's flying way under everybody's radar.
Not mine. I have her ranked second. I thought the Sunland Oaks was a fantastic race. I think she's going to be worth every bit of her price. You said 40-1 yesterday. I don't know if she'll be quite that high. It is a 14-horse field, though. But to me, the way she won the Sunland Oaks second after all those gate-to-wire wins, maybe she's sort of that speed of the second tier here. She lets Amy's Challenge could actually benefit her, because if she can show that relaxed style and then get first run on the closers, I think that's the right trip to win at a big price. So Blamed is definitely going to figure prominently.
It's just a matter of how good she is. She hasn't faced anything the likes of what she's going to face in the Kentucky Oaks starting gate. So sometimes when horses are able to relax on her near the lead and they don't have much competition around them, they go by, nobody else runs at them, they don't get a lot of pressure, they're able to do things their own way. I agree with
who else hasn't faced anybody the likes of they'll see in Derby Day?
Every horse in the race.
Well, Justify, other than Bolt d'Oro.
Well, true. And Justify with that big workout yesterday, scheduled to arrive here early next week, getting geared up to see him on the track for the first time, which I'm sure is well anticipated by everybody who's got their eye on the Kentucky Derby. Combatant, this is a deep closer. Throw it back up to James on this one. James, he's kind of just been getting minor awards. Another horse, we had that social media question earlier about who the best closers are. I don't know if he's one of the best closers, but he is one of the closers.
Yeah, definitely. He's going to have to take another step forward to challenge in the Kentucky Derby. We talked about him yesterday a little bit, 2 seconds, a third, and then a fourth. So he puts himself in position, but he's lacking that final late kick to actually be more of a major factor. And but he could get the right race shape to aid his run on the far turn, and we'll see if he has enough punch in the stretch. He's made a pretty good impression. He's a good-looking horse, the son of Scat Daddy out there on the track. Your thoughts on Combatant, Brandon?
Yeah, for me, he's one of those horses that I'm going to key in if he gets in supers tries. I mean, for me, he's not a win candidate, but perfect horse at great odds to be able to hit the board.
Yeah, really good-looking horse, Joe.
All right, so rapid-fire workouts earlier. One of them that we didn't get to show you live because of how much action was going on was the flame-away move. James talked about it earlier. Send it back up to James and Brandon on this to kind of talk us through it.
Yeah, Brandon, Flame-away going with the workmate here. Started like right behind him, drew even on the turn. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, the barn is, they like to have competitive team drills, and that's what you want to see here. You just want to see that Flame-away is competitive in the drill, and I think we all know his personality. If he's head-and-head with a horse, he's not going to let that horse get by, or at least he's going to do everything he can to try to prevent that. So the fact that he's already kind of pulled past that horse, it looks good there, and you can see size-wise, I mean, Flame-away is a pretty good-sized horse, and ears are up here, just a little bit of maybe nudging late in here, but Flame-away looking good to the wire, and I think the best thing about him, James, is the competitive spirit.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I don't think he's ever – one time he ran poorly early in his career otherwise, Joe, and he's one of the most experienced members of the field. He always tries hard. He's always right there at the wire. He's a kind of that could be huge odds in the Derby and could be in position turning it for home just to hold on for a minor award.
There's a couple of ways that can happen, in my opinion, Ed, and that would be, A, if he's up close to the pace and the fractions aren't too strong, and we don't know yet, but this track might be holding speed. You have to kind of see how it's playing during the course of the day on Saturday. If those scenarios happen and the pace is reasonable, or he's in the second flight, kind of makes that move, with the 5/8 pole or whatever to get a little bit closer to the leaders, and the track is holding speed, this is the kind of horse that can hang around, but kind of a wait and see for me.
Yeah, I'm eager to see what the price is. I mean, he definitely has his supporters, but given all the obvious choices, I think it's pretty comfortable. He's going to be 15, 20-1 minimum and might be higher. To me, with his style, I agree with you. I don't think he's going to be mid-pack and all of a sudden start passing horses. You want him in a good position the whole way around, and him rebuffing sort of Heisman pose, all the, throwing him away to his side as they try to tackle him down inside the final 8. But he's not going to pass a ton late. You want him in good position turning for home.
Yeah, I just think he's not fast enough to be up there necessarily, and you don't want to be ding-donging it, you know what I mean? Because that would just completely compromise his chances. But, yeah, he will be forwardly placed throughout, and he's going to dig in.
Right, yeah. To me, he stands a better chance with horses passing him going backwards than he does passing horses going forward.
That's what
makes sense.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
You want to see promises fulfilled, throwing in the towel. Not that I think Flame Away is a better animal than Magnum Moon or Justify overall, but in the scope of this race with the preparation and the foundation each has, maybe those are two that they're done at the 8th pole, and Flame Away just sticks around.
Just sticks around, exactly, because you know that he's going to try all the way to the wire no matter what the distance of the race is. Okay, so the designated time for Oaks and Derby horses is now ending. We're going to really try to digest everything we saw, and it's a lot. Obviously, Brandon had that stopwatch fuming up there as he was trying to clock multiple horses at one time. I want to throw it back up to James and Brandon for their initial thoughts on what they saw, maybe who you thought was the most impressive worker of the day, and just overall impressions, guys.
Yeah, I liked Good Magic. I mean, once again, he looked really good on the track, in my opinion, Brandon. My boy Jack, I was expecting a little bit more from him. Looked like the exercise rider, was really pushing him along a little bit. I was interested to see your take.
Yeah, I mean, he's a deep closer. Yeah, I would want to see maybe a little more pop in there, but I think mission accomplished in there. And the fact that, too, we got the insight earlier from Keith saying that they had babied him a little bit. Maybe they didn't want him to go fast in here, but they did want to get that nice move into him, and he finished up okay, 24-1 on my watch, and a good enough move in there. Good Magic you talked about looked really good down the lane, and he seems to be thriving in here, and they're going to have to come and take down the champ.
Yeah. Any thoughts about the Oaks fillies out there?
Yeah, I did like that Monomoy Girl seemed a little more relaxed. I liked that slow move today in 49, and she showed that ability, so I liked what I saw today from Monomoy Girl.
All right, back to you, Joe.
All right, thanks, guys. Very, very interesting thoughts there, and I echo those sentiments on Good Magic. He's just continued to impress me, and I'm like, okay, well, I like Mendelssohn in the Derby. I've liked him since he crossed the wire in the UAE Derby. I actually liked him before that, but that was the point where I said, yeah, this is a horse that is going to be tough to contend with, but we haven't seen him yet. So now these other horses slowly climbing up my list, including Good Magic, who has done nothing wrong. And like you said earlier, Chad is exuding confidence.
Yeah, and his mulligans, so to speak, have come in earlier races in form cycle. And in a what have you done for me lately game, it's good to see that progression. And that progression certainly hasn't ended with the Bluegrass. A race I was a little chilly on, to be honest. It didn't come back all that fast, but, all the talk of the pedigree and Curlin and what he's done in the classic races already, plus Chad Brown's talent as a trainer and confidence that you mentioned, it's hard to ignore this horse. And it's the third or fourth choice. I think you might get the right price.
Well, I want to ask you a question about that for our viewers out there. The Brisnet past performances and those speed figures that you're alluding to. Obviously, the higher number, the better. But what about the progression when you see a move forward and then trying to predict another move forward to get a horse like Good Magic to a point where he's fast enough to contend and or win this race? How do you evaluate that progression potential?
Yeah, one thing for me is I definitely want to see a horse who has been fast. The Derby is not a race where you suddenly become a faster animal, whether it's the distance or any of those reasons. You need to be fast going in. And even horses like Mind That Bird and Giacomo, when they shocked the world at 50-1, they ran their race. I mean, it was their best race, but it compared to other races they had run at that level. So to me, you definitely have a bar that each of these horses have set already. I will say that I wish Good Magic's was a little higher. I mean, if Justify runs to his best, Good Magic isn't going to be good enough. But given Chad Brown, given the distance, given the form cycle we've seen, I think if Good Magic runs back to that Breeders' Cup and I'm willing to play against a horse like Justify running a big race, fourth in 2 months or whatever it is, I think you're getting the right price.
All right, so we have some social media questions. We've got one from Noor on Facebook. I want to give this one to Brandon and James to discuss. Please give us your opinions on which Derby horses are the most beautiful and have the best conformation. And personality-wise, which ones have the reputation of being people-friendly versus temperamental. I've been visiting the barns. I haven't gotten bit yet, which is a good thing. But back to the conformation thing, guys. Who do you think has the conformation where you're like, wow, this is an impressive animal? For me, it's Magnum Moon, just because he just looks beastly out there. But your thoughts on the conformation and how these horses are looking?
Yeah, I mean, Magnum Moon is like a terrific, big, long horse that looks fantastic. I'll agree with that. Brandon, your thoughts on the conformation?
Yeah, I mean, Hofburg is one that catches the eye when he comes out. Something about chestnuts in the sun, so I think it's a little more visually appealing, especially when you're watching it on TV. So Hofburg is one. I do like the way that Flame Away is built. He's got some size and some length, and for me, he's a very interesting runner.
Yeah, I mean, he's made a great impression as well. Another big, long chestnut. And, Joe, I like my boy Jack's appearance on the track as well, the way he's had his head bowed and he's been out there jogging. He worked today, didn't really I didn't find it that great, but Brandon liked it a little bit.
Well, when Brandon said that Hofburg catches his eye, I had this big, huge smile on his face, because when Brandon says that, that's a very, very positive sign. All right, from Melissa on Facebook, and Ed, I'm going to ask you this one. It's about Justify. He had that workout yesterday. He's going to be coming here early next week before we get a chance to see him on the track for the first time. Much anticipated, obviously. But we've got a question from Melissa on Facebook. How important is it that Justify hasn't gotten dirty yet? And what she means by that is he's had things all his own way in all three starts. The likelihood for that in the Kentucky Derby is a lot less.
For sure, and I don't love it for the Derby. I mean, other races, I think it would be easy to say he's so good he makes his own trips. I mean, we saw that with Rachel Alexandra in some of her races. People, they give her an easy lead or go sapper to go further back. They were just so much better and brilliant than the rest that they made their own trip. American Pharoah in the Breeders' Cup, for instance. The Derby is a different animal from all those races, and to me, Justify definitely needs, I shouldn't say needs, but that experience makes it tough to take 5-2 in a full field. And whether he's ahead of Promises Fulfilled or trying to chase him down, I don't like the fact that he's run against short fields and had things all his own way.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this. I think that in September, Justify might be the best 3-year-old. This isn't September. This is May. That inexperience could be detrimental. But if he wins this Derby with all the quality in this Derby,
right, yeah. I mean,
I will be bowing down to him.
Similar to American Pharoah, I thought that 2015 class was fantastic. Dortmund, Firing Line, Frosted, who ended up being a fantastic 4-year-old. Keen Ice, who defeated American Pharoah in the Travers. A good group for sure. And he won this race and went on to win the Triple Crown. So, yeah, if he gets it done here on May 5th, to me the only roadblock to a Triple Crown would be the fact that he would have run so many races in a short amount of time. But the talent would be unmistakable.
Right. I'm going to try to pull up some of these workout times here. We've got Good Magic, an official workout time, 49.40, which is 49 2/5. The split's 12.80, 24.80, 36.60, out in 101.20. And again, 0.20 would mean 101 1/5. So 0.20 1/5. 0.40 2/5. I know it gets a little bit confusing, but that's the way we equate those workouts. So Good Magic, 49.40, 49 2, just what trainer Chad Brown wanted to see from him here this morning. The highlighted work of the day, Ed.
I would have to say Good Magic. I definitely don't feel I have the acumen to judge them on their merit, but the fact that the champ showed up and continued that progression that he's had since the Bluegrass and has, to me, become the talking horse. And yeah, is a better. The reason I like it is he's not going to take any more money. I mean, maybe a point or two. Justify's going to be the favorite. Mendelssohn's going to be the second choice. If you like the way Good Magic's coming into this race, you're going to get the price you want. And from what we saw today, he is.
And there's Good Magic. There's that workout time for him, 49.40, which is 49 2/5. Promises Fulfilled, 1:48 seconds flat. Again, not surprising to see him go fast because he is a speed horse, and that's probably what Dale wanted.
Over under on the half-mile split in the Derby, 48 seconds.
It'll be under that.
Yeah, I think so too.
Well, that's going to wrap up. Guys, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, definitely under that. I'm going to be looking at a fast early pace. I don't know if they can slow it down a little bit during the race, but expecting a fast pace, Brandon.
Yeah, way under that 48, guys. That's what I'm thinking.
All right, Joe.
All right, thanks, guys. For Ed DeRosa, James Scully, and Brandon Staubel, Joe Christovac here for the Kentucky Derby Work Show presented by TwinSpires.com. We are racing live at Churchill Downs tonight. It's opening night, first post, 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We hope to see you at the races tonight, 1 week away from Kentucky Derby 144. Looking forward to it, and join us again tomorrow, 7 a.m. for the Kentucky Derby Work Show.